there are so many episodes of this. How do you capture everything within a show, but still make sure you're getting, the nuance of every little moment?
Ultimately, like, we had a story that we wanted to tell, and using the Staircase documentary as that vehicle, a study of truth, a study of construction and storytelling of justice, of hoping that people walk away feeling comfortable with uncertainty. Those were the goals. And then, so it's kind of like, what do we need to say and tell and show that help move those themes forward, while, of course, making people understand that this is about a real life incident. It sounds more complicated than it was. I think it was very apparent to us, like the things, like the kind of the North Stars that we would want to incorporate, whether it's finding the blowpoke, the owl theory, which costumes to replicate exactly and which not. It was pretty organic, wouldn't you say, Antonio? It didn't.
Yeah, I felt like, yeah, if I like we got into that room and we started talking about, well, what is it that we need to touch on? I think we touched on all the things that we were sort of identified from the beginning as really important to us.
Actually, as you were saying that, like the writer's room, because you have people coming together who in theory have never discussed this before, when everybody has the same idea of what needs to be there,
right.
That's what you need to include, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like everybody's like, oh, this thing, it's like, yep, that thing, those are the elements, because it's having those multiple perspectives, those multiple voices, everyone's bringing the different backstory to their perception of the story. And so when there's a universalness to what we need to include, it was kind of like, there is that consensus was important.
And I would also add, the nuance, so much of that is also really great performers, actors who can, take a line of description or action that speaks to something abstract or feeling that you want to convey, and with a look or with the way they say something, do that really economically and effectively. A lot of times we'll write something in the description hoping that just hoping that can translate into performance easily, and because you always, if you can achieve something in silence versus dialogue, you should always do it, because it's always just more powerful, and the imagination can do so much more sometimes. Great actors can bring so much nuance that is necessary to making a story this complex feel relatable, accessible.
I'm blown away by Colin and the voice, everything. I was very concerned about, would he be too likable? Because there's this in the documentary, you're never really sure how you feel about Michael. Did you work with him to capture that at all, Antonio?
Be more unlikable, Colin. You're too likable. No. Colin is just, we all work closely on the character, and there, I think that Colin's people, the audience's relationship with Colin that they come in with is something that was beneficial, because it allowed you to connect with the character in the way that you should right away, because we meet a person who's a grieving husband, and you need to connect with him in that moment. And then as things unfold, you have to start looking at him differently. Colin is a brilliant actor. He's probably known for certain roles that people feel very warmly. The reality is he's just, he was able to capture the complexity of Michael Peterson and play all those different layers at the same time. And, we were very aware if a moment, if we wanted to kind of maybe sway an audience member at one point to feel something more in this direction versus this direction, Colin is the kind of actor that can, with a certain, just subtle shifts or adjustments, can get that feeling across. It wasn't a challenge, and I think that Colin captured the complexity and those kind of conflicting feelings that people have with Michael Peterson really beautifully.
And Maggie, I have to ask, this is going to be a difficult task, but how much of this is accurate? You guys are revealing new things in a sense, but how much of that is a dramatization?
I mean, I think it's a great question, because it really does speak to like what we're trying to do with the story, which is question the idea that anything can be fully accurate, or it could be a single truth. I think what was important to us was that we wanted to have touchstones that were kind of universally agreed upon that had occurred, whether it was the blood spatter on the staircase, and the staircase was identical. We had this exact dimensions. We had 3 staircases. We built 3 of them. One was clean, one was the bloody one, and one was the green stunt staircase. Basically, what we wanted to do is we wanted to create this sense of legitimacy, like a foundation from which we could work. Because if you have that, the viewer feels they know what they're talking about. They know what the story is. And then we take elements of it and we'd say, but what about this? And what about that? It's a really interesting thing, because it's just about the construction. Like, even when we had the best intentions of having something be accurate, production demands change that. Locations change that. The weather changes that. COVID changes that. It was less about making sure everything was exact and like replicated, and more about imbuing it with a sense of familiarity. So then we could say, but this thing that you think you know, do you really know it for sure?
I think that I'd also add, we did a lot of research.
Yeah.
And I think in order for us to create a story in which, we're questioning the truth and questioning truth itself, we had to have that foundation, and we couldn't start off very loosely looking at things. Oh yeah, well, like, that's not important. It's like everything in the beginning was very important, and we were very concerned with, well, what really happened? What do we know? And then what can we deduce from the things we've heard? And then, we had that. So we had absorbed all that, but we allowed the creative process to be the creative process, and to write the story the way that it needed to be written. I hope that we're able to release the annotated scripts, because I think they show the level of research and that we did for this thing, which was pretty in-depth.
Hey dolls, we have a new show for you to keep up with all things Kardashian.
Every week we're going to be breaking down the drama, the relationships.
Check it all out right here.
New episodes drop every Thursday.
Oh, not the best high five, but we're good co-hosts.